Hey, English 112, Miss Brewer here for part 2 of your week 3 for English 112. We are getting into APA format this time, so I just want to make sure I go over the basics of APA format with you guys and talk about what you guys are going to be doing for your assignments for this week, okay? So your literary analysis essay is due next Monday. That's the 13th. So make sure you get that done. You're going to also submit that same day your NetTutor feedback. So that's the PDF that you access from NetTutor. You will upload that PDF. That is a free 100. All you have to do is get the feedback from them and upload the feedback. You will probably do better on your paper if you actually use their feedback to revise your paper. But that's something that you might want to, take some time to do. So today we're going to talk about APA and the assignments you guys are going to be working on for the remainder of this semester. So for your APA assignment, you guys are going to select a social issue from the poetry that we read at the beginning of the course. You're going to select a social issue that is currently an issue today, okay? You will need to be able to tie the social issue back to poetry that we read, okay? It needs to be a clear connection. With the social issue that you choose to research, you're going to be researching to write an annotated bibliography in APA format, and you are also going to use the same articles for the annotated bibliography for a literature review, which is a style of writing in APA, and we'll talk about that in the next week's lecture, okay? That will be the two major writing assignments you have for APA. After that, you will have a final project for the class. It's a PowerPoint presentation. You will use business style writing in that PowerPoint, okay? So I'll provide some lessons on business style writing, and you'll make sure to use that. And what that PowerPoint will do is it'll tie together everything, all right? So you'll tell about the social issue that you chose. You'll teach us a little bit about it from your literature review. And you'll tie it back to the poetry that we read in class, okay? What themes did that social issues tie back to? And then you will, for the presentation, for the last part of the presentation, you will locate a social justice organization that ties back to your issue. So if I chose, let's say, the issue of racial profiling or something to that effect, then I would choose a social justice organization, maybe like the equity reform or social equity, equity for justice reform or something like that. There's a lot of different ones for that. And I will give you guys a website to go to where you can see a bunch of different social issue or social justice organizations that are out there. You're not beholden to use just what's on that. You can Google and find other ones, but I'll give you a start, okay? All you're doing right now in regard to that is you are selecting a social issue that you're going to focus on for the remainder of the class, okay? So for this week, what you're going to do is you're going to choose a social issue. So let's say I wrote my literary analysis on, oppression. Well, you can choose a lot of social issues that deal with oppression, okay? So maybe I want to choose like maybe this prison to school to prison pipeline or something like that, right? So that might be what I choose to research and learn about for my social issue. So what I'm going to do for my assignment this week, actually I'll show you that in just a second. I want to also talk about APA format. And I need to update that. So APA just recently updated their format. So they moved from the 6th edition to the 7th edition. So there are some changes that have occurred in APA format, literally like in the last 6 months or so. Your citations in the LRC, which I'll show you guys how to access, your citations are going to be 6th edition. That's fine. Just use those. And then there are some changes in 7th edition that we're going to use for our work now. Okay. So I'm opening up the course lecture on APA, the American Psychological Association, and this is some stuff that you'll probably see some questions about this on your final. So APA stands for American Psychological Association, and usually you'll see this used in research, essentially in areas that are not like specific science, like biology and things like that, and are not the humanities, like English and communications and humanities and whatnot. That's MLA. Pretty much everything else. Social sciences, so psychology, sociology, philosophy, anything like that, medical education, you're going to use APA format. So if you're going down any of those paths for your further education, you're probably going to be using APA format. So there's two things you're looking at with APA format. You're looking at the page design and you're looking at documentation. So page design, you're looking at totally different situation than MLA. So first we'll start out with the fact that you have a title page for everything you do. And I have an example here of what the title page should look like. You have your page number in the top right. You have your title about maybe a quarter of the way down in bold. And then 4 spaces down from that, or 2 enters if you're double spaced. You have your name. You have the school. So for you guys who put Lenore Community College, you have the course and the course number. You have your instructor's name and you have the date. And this example is right here in the APA lesson. So make sure you follow that, okay? And then for research, you're going to be doing citations a little bit differently, okay? So now, first of all, your full citation, make sure that it's an APA format. I know that it's an APA format because APA, because it's science-based, puts a lot of emphasis on when was it written, okay? So you will have the author's last name and first initial, and then you will have the year or the date right after it. So if that's not there, it's not APA format, all right? So make sure you're getting your full citations in APA format. The other thing that you'll be looking at with APA format is you will be using headings and things like that. So for your annotated bibliography, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, you will actually use the heading annotated bibliography before you write the annotated bib. You also will be doing what's called an abstract. The abstract occurs on page 2. It's the only thing on page 2, and the abstract just overviews whatever it is the assignment is that you're working on, okay? So when you do your annotated bibliography, it'll overview the summarization of essentially all of the articles that you're annotating, okay? So you'll have an abstract for your next 2 written assignments, your annotated bibliography and your literature review, so prepare for that, okay? There's just some examples in this lesson about the way that a citation is formatted in APA format. You do not have to memorize those. I don't expect you to do that, okay? So just be aware that there are a couple of differences in APA 7 versus APA 6, what we used to use. So APA 7, the page design is a little different, which I went over. And when you do your citations, those have changed a little bit. So now it's like MLA, it used to be different. But just like in MLA, when you do your citations, if it's more than 2 authors, you will use et al. In text. For the reference page, for the actual full citation, you would not use et al. Until it gets to like, I think 15 or something crazy. But again, you're not creating those, you're getting those from the LRC. So that's important to remember. Okay, so I'm getting out of the APA course lecture. And I went over what your assignment details are going to be for the remainder of the semester with the APA format. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about what stuff that you're working on that's due for Sunday. So after you revise, or as you're waiting to revise your literary analysis, you can be working on your social issue selection, okay? So what's due on Sunday is a journal. It's the social issue selection. You're going to tell me what social issue you're going to focus on for the remainder of the semester. You're going to say why you selected that. You're going to say which poem addresses that social issue and how it addresses that social issue. I need to see that connection. And then why do you still see it as an issue in society? That's the journal part. That's the 200 to 300 words. In addition to that, you need to put 2 APA citations for articles that you can find on your topic. And that's really important. Okay, so remember that we're going to be researching for an annotated bibliography on a social issue. You're making the connection to the poetry just for your journal, and for the remainder of the writing on the annotated bib and your literature review, you're only learning about your social issue. So here's how you're going to do that. You're going to live in the LRC. That's really important to remember. I don't want you Google searching or anything like that, okay? So you will go to the LRC, which I'm doing now, and I'm going to flip around and show you. And I'm in the LRC. I'm going to go to databases right here because this is the best way to make sure I can get my citations. All right, after I go to databases, right here it says popular databases. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to find NC Live. This is where I prefer to do my research. It is the most friendly. It has the best citations. So now that I'm in NC Live, I'm going to search my social issue. So like I said, let's just go with school to prison pipeline. I'm just going to enter that and see what happens. This is what's important right here. You have scholarly articles. This is where you live. So I'm going to open up the scholarly articles. This is what I'm going to use to do my research. All right, school resource officers in the school to prison pipeline, discovering trends. Fantastic. So I'm going to look at this article, open up, and for the purposes of my assignment this week, the journal, I just want to make sure I can find things, okay? It's not that long of an article, so we're looking at about 18 pages, as you can see here. That's not super long, all right? You make sure when you find an article that you're interested in that you want to use for the remainder of the semester, you download the PDF and you save it to your computer. That's very important. Then for the purposes of your journal and for your annotated bibliography, you have this fancy little tool, all right? I think I might have right here next to download PDF, and it says cite. I'm going to click it. And APA 6th edition is here. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to copy it. I will paste it for this week just into Moodle. And it's fine for this week if you don't have a hanging indentation because Moodle's not friendly with the hanging indentation. But for your annotated bibliography and for your literature review, you would need to have the hanging indentation and it would need to be in Times New Roman format. So just be aware of that, okay? All right, so I'm going back into the course for this week.